I can still hear the screams, thousands of them, echoing through the misty night. The stench of rot filled the air, both from the bodies that lay scattered and from the very kingdom that was tearing itself apart. They say I was a surgeon, wielding my hands among the chaos. Yet even soap was a luxury we could not afford. Secrets of power buried beneath piles of corpses and ambition. What if I told you that long before dragons soared in the skies of Westeros, there were two real houses that brought England to its knees? A white rose and a red rose, symbolizing a war that would forever change the landscape of love, betrayal, and ultimate power. It began in shadows and whispers, where the noble houses of York and Lancaster plotted. The air crackled with tension, and I felt the weight of every secret, as if it were pressing down on my chest. Kings were weak, nobles greedy, and the crown crumbling like stale bread. I stood among them, a mere observer, yet I sensed the brewing storm. Would you have sided with the Yorks, the claimants of the White Rose, or with the Lancasters, branding the red? A choice that could cost you your life. Margaret of Anjou, a queen like no other, her heart ablaze with the fire of a mother and a warrior. With every command, I felt the earth tremble beneath her resolute stance. "For my husband, for my son," she cried, leading her army into the fray. The taste of iron and fear intertwined, as loyalties shifted like the winds. The battles drew lines in the dirt, yet I was right there, smelling the sweat and blood mingling in the chaos. The battle cries grew louder, drowning out everything else, resonating within the hearts of those who fought. Each clash of swords sent a shiver down my spine, a reminder of the very human cost of ambition. As Margaret stood on the battlefield, I watched as hope clashed with despair. What would I have chosen? Power or safety? I wondered. In that moment, I could feel the tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a sword. Towton, a name forever etched in history. The bloodiest battle fought on English soil. I could feel the cold biting through my skin as I watched from afar warriors clad in armor, becoming ghosts before my eyes. The snow turned crimson, and I felt my stomach churn. How many lives were lost for a piece of cloth? A crown. The screams of dying men mingled with the resolve of Edward IV, a young warrior, bold and brilliant. His confidence was intoxicating, igniting a fierce loyalty in his followers that no amount of bloodshed could extinguish. They fought not only for land, but for families, dreams, and legacies. Yet, what would I have fought for? If you were in the thick of battle, would you linger on the ideals of glory, or would you be paralyzed by the fear of losing everything? The ghostly silhouettes of fallen soldiers haunted the battlefield once, mighty men reduced to mere memories, as their blood stained the earth beneath them. Richard III, the last Yorkist king, a figure draped in mystery. They say he seized power through lies, manipulation, and murder. The princes in the tower vanished into the dark, and with them, the hope of a united York. I felt his desperation, the cold touch of fate wrapping around his heart. With every decision he made, the stakes grew higher, and the specter of betrayal loomed closer. Could he have chosen differently? To be a ruler or a monster? As I stood in the shadows, I couldn't help but reflect on what drives a man to such depths of cruelty. The crown weighed heavily on his brow, but at what cost? At Bosworth Field, it all came crashing down. Henry Tudor, a name that would change history, faced Richard III in a confrontation that reeked of treachery and blood. The ground shook with their clash, and I felt the weight of every decision pressing upon me. A new dawn was near, but at what cost? The throne was a seat of death, and even loyalty could be a dagger in disguise. As the battle raged, The cries of the wounded filled the air, mingling with the desperate shouts of warriors fighting for their lives. I stood there, gripped by the chaos. The very essence of humanity laid bare before me. I felt as if I was watching a tragedy unfold, each moment steeped in the weight of history. If you were Henry, would you risk everything to claim your birthright? Would you be willing to shed blood for a chance at greatness? The lines between hero and villain blurred as the battle unfolded in a frenzy of violence and desperation. To unite the kingdom, Henry married Elizabeth of York, blending the red and white into a single rose. A forced peace, but beneath that delicate surface lay decades of betrayal, ambition, and blood. I felt the weight of history crushing me under its magnitude. Was unity worth the sacrifices? Did peace come with its own blade? As the two houses came together, I could sense the unease in the air, a fragile truce that could shatter at any moment. The wedding was a grand affair, yet I could not shake the feeling that darkness lingered just beneath the surface. Could I have loved amidst such chaos? If I were to stand in the hall with nobles celebrating this union, would I be able to ignore the screams of the past? The ghosts of the fallen remained, their stories intertwined with the fabric of this new beginning, reminding us that history rarely offers a clean slate. The Wars of the Roses did not need dragons or direwolves. They had all the elements of a true tragedy. Betrayal, ambition, the lust for power, all under the watchful eyes of queens and kings whose lives were entwined, just like the thorns of that rose. Would you have sought power or sought peace? What legacy would you have left amidst all that bloodshed? In the shadow of death, I found life. Perhaps hope lingers amidst the darkest tales of our past. In every tale of despair, there lies a seed of hope. As I reflect on these events, I am struck by the resilience of the human spirit. The stories of the Yorks and Lancasters remind us that even in the depths of chaos, the desire for unity can blossom. Join me again as we uncover the hidden truths and stories that shaped our world, where betrayal and ambition intermingle with the fragile threads of hope. If this account haunts you as much as it haunts me, subscribe to hear the next chapter of our tumultuous history. In the aftermath of the Wars of the Roses, England found itself in a peculiar state. The merging of the houses of York and Lancaster through Henry and Elizabeth's marriage created a semblance of peace. Yet the bloodshed had left deep scars. The people yearned for stability, but they were also haunted by memories of betrayal and violence. As I wandered through towns where these battles had once raged, I could still feel the weight of history pressing down on the shoulders of those who had survived. Each village bore witness to the devastation, and in the eyes of the old I saw a flicker of loss that spoke louder than words. The stories of fallen kin echoed in the whispers of the wind, resonating with the lives that had been shattered. They spoke of loyalty, of friendships that had turned to ashes, and of families torn apart by ambition. In my heart, I could feel their pain. The very soil seemed to scream, soaked with the blood of countless souls who had fought not just for power, but for their very existence. I remember visiting a small village where the effects of the war had been particularly brutal. An elder recounted tales of brave men who had fought for their lords, only to be cast aside when the tides turned. "We used to grow our own food, raise our children," she said, her voice trembling with the weight of grief. "Now, we scrape by, living in the shadows of their ambitions." As I listened, I felt a wave of guilt washing over me. Was I merely a spectator to their suffering, or was I part of the very history that had brought them to this point? Tales of Richard III continued to linger in the air, a ghostly presence overshadowing the newly formed Tudor dynasty. Was he truly a villain, or was he simply a man caught in the ruthless game of power? Historians debated his legacy endlessly. Yet I sensed that in the hearts of the people, there existed a complex tapestry of emotions. Some admired his fierce determination, while others reviled him for his ruthless tactics. He had become a symbol of the darkness that could envelop even the noblest of intentions, a reminder that the thirst for power often leads to ruin. In the grand halls of the newly established Tudor court, another struggle was brewing. Henry VII, a cautious ruler, recognized the need for stability, but also felt the pressure of expectations weighing heavily on him. As I watched him navigate the politics of the court, I saw a man caught between his desire for peace and the ever-looming threats of rebellion. The ghosts of the past were never far behind him, whispering reminders of his tenuous hold on the throne. The court was rife with intrigue. Nobles schemed and plotted in the shadows, their ambitions still burning bright. I could feel the tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. Henry's reign was defined by a constant balancing act, a tightrope walk between maintaining power and appeasing those who had once fought for the Red Rose. He implemented policies aimed at unifying the kingdom. Yet, there were whispers of discontent among those who felt overlooked. I found myself drawn to the stories of the women who had played pivotal roles during this tumultuous period. Margaret of Anjou, despite her fierce reputation, was a woman shaped by loss and desperation. Her fierce loyalty to her husband and son had driven her to lead armies on the battlefield, but it had also left her vulnerable to the whims of fate. As I explored her life, I marveled at the strength it must have taken to navigate a world dominated by men. Yet I couldn't help but wonder, was her fight for love worth the cost of so many lives? Elizabeth of York, too, emerged as a figure of strength in this turbulent landscape. She embodied the hope for reconciliation, a bridge between two warring houses. But her heart bore the weight of the past, and I could sense the internal struggles she faced. Would she become a symbol of unity, or would she be haunted by the bloodshed that had paved her path? I found myself captivated by the dualities of their lives, fierce warriors and devoted mothers, vengeful queens and hopeful wives. Each woman was a testament to the complexity of the human experience, shaped by the historical forces that surrounded them. As I dug deeper into these stories, I realized that the Wars of the Roses were not merely about battles and bloodshed. They were about the people caught in the crossfire. The choices made by kings and queens echoed in the lives of ordinary men and women, each decision rippling through generations. Did they learn from the past, or were they doomed to repeat it? The tumultuous legacy of the Wars of the Roses continued to cast its shadow over English politics. New alliances formed, but old rivalries simmered just beneath the surface. As Henry VII sought to secure his throne, he had to navigate a world where trust was a rare commodity. The lessons learned from the past weighed heavily on him, and I could sense the fear that gripped his heart. Would the dreams of a united England ever truly be realized? Or would the specter of war loom once more on the horizon? The echoes of the past haunted every decision made in the court, a reminder that the struggle for power was a relentless tide. I felt the dance of history around me, complex and intertwined, each step echoing with the weight of choices made long ago. As I wandered through time, the stories of the Yorks and Lancasters merged into a rich tapestry of human experience. I could see the faces of those who had lived through it, each one carrying the burdens of their ancestors. The legacy of the Wars of the Roses was not merely a tale of kings and queens. It was a poignant reminder of the fragility of power and the resilience of the human spirit. In every corner of England, the whispers of the past lingered on, urging us to remember the lessons learned. The yearning for peace, the thirst for power, and the bonds forged in the fires of conflict served as reminders that history is never as straightforward as it seems. Would you have the strength to face the ghosts of your past? Would you dare to forge a new path amidst the ruins of ambition? As the sun set on this chapter of history, I felt a sense of hope emerge from the ashes. The stories of the Wars of the Roses remain a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. In the midst of chaos, there is always the promise of renewal, the chance to rise from the ashes and build anew. The lessons learned from the past linger like shadows, guiding us as we navigate the complexities of our own lives. Join me again as we continue to unravel the threads of this intricate tapestry where ambition clashes with humanity, and the struggle for power unfolds in the most unexpected ways. Together, we will explore the stories that shaped our world, where history's greatest tragedies give birth to the most profound lessons. Shall we journey once more into the heart of this tumultuous saga? As I delve deeper into the stories of the past, I began to understand the intricate web of alliances and betrayals that defined the Wars of the Roses. Each battle was not merely a clash of swords. It was a manifestation of human ambition, a reflection of the desires and fears that resided in the hearts of men and women alike. The stakes were not just thrones or lands, but the very essence of identity and legacy. The tapestry of this conflict was woven with threads of loyalty and betrayal, love and hatred. I could hear the echoes of whispered promises and bitter confrontations resonating in the silence of the fallen fields. Each noble house fought not just for survival, but for the narrative that would define their existence, a tale of glory or a tale of disgrace. I found myself transfixed by the various factions that emerged during the wars. The Yorkists and Lancastrians weren't the only players on this complicated chessboard. Other houses sought to carve out their own place in the fray. Ambitious nobles vied for power, their ambitions often leading to betrayal and fatal consequences. Their names had faded from the annals of history, yet their actions reverberated through time, influencing the course of events in ways they could not have imagined. Among these forgotten figures, I discovered the name of Thomas Woodcock, a lesser-known knight who had fought valiantly for the Yorkist cause. His story was one of resilience and heartbreak, marking the path of a man caught in the relentless tide of conflict. Woodcock was a loyal servant who had given everything for his lord. Yet in the chaotic aftermath of the Wars of the Roses, he found himself ostracized, living in the shadows of the very ideals for which he fought. As I read his account, I could almost feel his anguish, the weight of unfulfilled dreams, heavy on his shoulders, as he navigated the treacherous waters of court intrigue. His struggles echoed the experiences of countless others, men and women who had sacrificed their lives in the pursuit of power. The wars had forged a new social order, yet the scars remained. Peasants who had once lived in relative peace now faced the harsh realities of a land torn apart by greed. They whispered tales of noble betrayal in the markets, their eyes clouded with fear and uncertainty. The once fertile fields became battlegrounds, and the taste of bread turned bitter for many. In my heart, I could feel the weight of their stories pressing upon me, reminding me that history is not just a collection of dates and events. It is a living, breathing entity shaped by the dreams and disappointments of those who came before us. Who were the true heroes of this saga? The kings and queens who fought for their crowns, or the everyday men and women who bore the brunt of their ambitions? As I continued my exploration, the ghost of Richard III loomed large over the narrative, a figure who had been both vilified and romanticized. His downfall was tragic, yet I sensed a deeper complexity beneath the surface. Was he truly the deformed villain of Shakespeare's imagination, or was he a tragic hero caught in a web of circumstance? The legends surrounding him left me questioning the very nature of power and its ability to corrupt even the purest of intentions. I found solace in the stories of those who had resisted the tide of power. There were accounts of individuals who dared to stand against tyranny, who chose loyalty to their conscience over loyalty to their lords. The chronicles spoke of brave souls who had hidden rebels in their homes, risking everything for the sake of their beliefs. Each act of defiance became a flickering flame in the darkness, a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, hope can emerge. As I sifted through the annals of history, I recognized that the lessons learned from the Wars of the Roses transcended the boundaries of time. The complexities of human nature, the conflicts between ambition and morality, the struggle for identity, these themes resonate even today. The past serves as a mirror, reflecting our own desires, fears, and the choices we make in pursuit of our dreams. Would you stand firm in the face of adversity, or would you succumb to the easy path of betrayal? In a world where loyalty is often tested, where the stakes are high, what choices would define your legacy? As I pondered these questions, I felt a surge of determination rising within me. The stories of the past ignited a fire, urging me to seek out the truth hidden within the folds of history. The arrival of the Tudor dynasty marked a turning point, a potential for renewal amidst the ashes of conflict. Henry VII sought to secure his reign, yet the echoes of York and Lancaster still reverberated in every corner of England. The nation yearned for stability, yet the threat of rebellion loomed ever present. As I observed the interplay of power and politics, I marveled at the fragility of peace and the lengths one must go to maintain it. With each new character that emerged in this historical drama, I realized that the past is not simply a series of events. It is a dynamic interplay of choices, motivations, and consequences. The decisions made by those in power had far-reaching effects on the lives of ordinary people. I could see the faces of the common folk reflected in the struggles of their leaders, their hopes and dreams entangled in the tumultuous narrative of the Wars of the Roses. And so, as I traced the footsteps of history, I found myself compelled to delve even deeper. The intricate dance of power, betrayal, and ambition captivated me, urging me to uncover the untold stories that lay buried beneath the weight of time. Each person I encountered, whether noble or common, contributed to the rich tapestry of human experience. As I sought out these hidden tales, I became acutely aware that the lessons of the past were not confined to dusty tomes. They lived on in the hearts of those willing to listen, to learn, and to reflect. In every story shared, there was a thread of wisdom woven into the fabric of existence, urging us to heed the warnings of those who had come before. With renewed resolve, I prepared to embark on the next chapter of my journey through history, eager to uncover more about the compelling forces that shaped our world. The echoes of the past still reverberated around me, and I knew that the path ahead would lead to even more revelations. Would I find answers to the questions that had haunted me, or would I uncover more mysteries that demanded exploration? The adventure awaited, and I was ready to embrace the unknown. Join me as we continue to uncover the secrets of this rich historical tapestry, where the tales of ambition, love, and sacrifice intertwine to remind us that the past is never truly gone. In the search for truth, we may find not just the history of kings and queens, but also the history of ourselves. Let us venture forth, guided by the whispers of those who dared to dream amidst the chaos, as we seek to understand the lessons that endure through time.